I would like to thank the Centre for Cultural Diversity and Ageing for inviting Uniting to present on our cultural diversity strategy and in particular our journey towards building a stronger, more sustainable, inclusive and diverse organisation. I have to say, as a mainstream NGO, it's an absolute honour to be here today to share with you some of our work. We've heard earlier today how complex the issues are and varied, but I am hoping in the next 25 minutes or so you'll get more of a flavour of Uniting, who we are and our journey around becoming more inclusive. I won't be going into any depth with regard to service provision or talking about intersectionality, but I will be focusing more on the strategic application we've taken because we believe it's important to get the back end of house in order first. So to start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet on and pay my respect to elders both past and present. I also extend that respect to all of you here today, given the important work you do to improve the lives of older people from a core background. And may I also say Happy Eid to our Muslim friends and colleagues. At Uniting, we celebrate our diversity and welcome all people regardless of lifestyle choices and ethnicity, sexual orientation and gender identity. In other words, we welcome you exactly as you are. So who are we? We're the services and advocacy arm of the Uniting Church in New South Wales ACT. We're probably the largest NGO in Australia, providing services from cradle to grave, and we provide services ranging from aged care, disability, community services, early learning and chaplaincy, and we have a very strong commitment to social justice and advocacy. We employ around about 9,000 people, and we have 2,500 volunteers that support us, and we serve every single week about 50,000 clients. And I must say, we do have an annual turnover of just under $1 billion. Yes, that's a lot, and yes, we're very big, but can I say there are a number of complexities as a result of that, particularly around bureaucracy. Diversity and inclusion are embedded in our culture. The culture of Uniting and our belief system is very much drawn from the ethos of the Uniting Church. This slide outlines and demonstrates our mission and purpose: to inspire people, enliven communities and confront injustice. And this is part of everything we do. We have an ambition to honour our purpose and mission by understanding and engaging our called communities, and we intend to do the same with our multicultural workforce. Diversity and inclusion makes good business sense to us. It engages our minority groups whilst representing our clients, and it fosters creativity and innovation. Diversity is embedded in our brand. This is really important. I must say, when I first started about close to 12 months ago, there was a brochure translated in Chinese, and not one image represented the actual Chinese heritage. So we've actually embarked on a pretty significant campaign of changing our collateral, all of our brochures, looking at advertisements at railway stations, as well as at bus shelters, and we had a commercial. And the images here are of those of our own clients, our own called clients, as well as our multicultural workforce. And that was pretty significant given the expanse of services from cradle to grave, as I talked about earlier. Diversity is embedded in our brand. Oh, I talked about that. Diversity is embedded in our practice. Embedding a cause led in our practice includes reinforcing our person-centred and inclusive practice. These images, again, are of our aged care residential services clients and home and community care clients, where we put the person at the centre of the service design and delivery. So when we start talking about the journey, what are the steps? What are the key things that we need to consider about building a more sustainable, equitable and inclusive organisation? We believe there are 3 key areas that we need to look at, and that's based on leadership, systems and culture. The first step is having a called, focused leadership. Basically, it's executive buy-in. If there is commitment from the top, there is more likely others to follow. However, it's not always understood, and any change must be sustained and it requires embedding new thinking, in policies, process and structures. It really demands the attention to the behaviours and attitudes of employees and management. This is both a moral and business imperative, and it demands a shift in culture. Similarly, with engagement, it starts with building connections with core communities and our multicultural workforce and ensuring their voices are heard and part of driving the solutions to change. So where do you start? You start by measuring cultural diversity, and there's been quite a bit of discussion earlier today, so what I'm talking about really in this presentation is reinforcing the previous presentations. So measuring cultural diversity really is about the current and future clients and employees. Making progress will be slow without accurate data. Collecting data gives a baseline for measuring future progress. It builds a business case with evidence. This slide is a hybrid of data from the Human Rights Commission and the latest census information. Most of you are probably aware of what you can see here on the slide, but what it does, it puts cultural diversity into context. We all know that around about 49% of Australians were either born overseas or have a parent that was born overseas. But what we also know is that in some suburbs, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne and other suburbs in Brisbane, it's a lot higher. So in Fairfield, for example, we have 70% of clients from a core background. And despite the Racial Discrimination Act, too many people in Australia experience race hate talk. So when we start looking at figures regarding uniting, about 16% of our staff report that they speak a second language. That's not true. Absolutely not true. It's around about 30%. And when we start looking at residential aged care and some of the services, it's closer to 50%. So we're doing a lot of work on our data integrity and ensuring that it's correct. Our largest groups are from Nepal, the Philippines, Chinese-speaking and subcontinent. And around about 23 to 24% of our clients in aged care identify as being called. And we also have 88 ethnic specific congregations. So in terms of our client base, what you can see here on the screen are about 40 different different cultural groups. The bolded ones are the ones that we're actually focusing on in aged care, so there's an actual targeted approach with those communities. And you can also see that there's some emerging communities and refugee communities that we're needing to work on. Remembering we're dealing with all services from early life to the end stage of life. And also, we're working with a lot more than 60, that's incorrect, it's about 127 culturally diverse groups, so apologies for that, and that's growing. So what does this mean? It means you really do need to look at the issues that you've got here on the screen, but importantly, need to be looking at the drivers for change. And all of you are aware around looking at government deregulation, what it means around consumer-directed care, personhood, the move towards the NDIS, choice and control, looking at the new standards that have come in, and also the issues around complex client needs and choice and control. The increased market competition is another issue, and the war for talent. So we're actually going through all of that ourselves and also looking at the issues around skill shortages. So look, considering all of that and the demographic data, the Human Rights Commission and what you can see here on this screen, we've produced what we call our called strategy, and we've put it on one page. So it's a strategy on a page. The strategy really is a whole of uniting, a whole of organisation effort, from our HR to IT, marketing, through to finance and all parts of the service delivery aspects. It's very important that we get buy-in from every part of the business so we can actually make the changes and look at leading for change. What we've got here is 6 key domain areas, and underneath each of those domain areas is a body of work, and that is about 6 pages of A3 of activity around our implementation plan. But importantly, it's about how we're going to be meeting the expected outcomes, which is what we're all aiming here in this room to do, around looking at improved access and ensuring that our workforce is skilled and capable, and that we actually look at ensuring that we have satisfaction of our clients in terms of the services that they receive. But what's important here too is that we've got leadership, and we've actually established the Uniting called Advisory Forum that provides the leadership, and that leadership structure is here, so it's about shared responsibility. And that shared responsibility is important. Again, it's about driving the diversity agenda. 70% of the members come from CALD, and every single part of the business is actually represented and accountable and needs to be part of that forum. Underneath that, we've got some special working groups looking at specific issues that we are tackling at the moment, and that is growing. There was another group that was established on Wednesday, just before I came. So that will keep on happening, but what we're doing is ensuring that it's not one person, me, driving it. We've got all parts of the business who have a responsibility to ensure that they actually start moving towards what we need to do. Okay, so in terms of strategy and action, there's a number of achievements you can see here, just some over the last 12 months, and I won't go through any great detail about those, but I will talk a little bit about them a bit later. And important in all of this is around advocacy, because that's what really drives the work that we do. In terms of our communication plan, we've developed a plan, and what we wanted to do is draw the right balance between the negative impacts of racism and the positive celebration of CALD communities at Uniting. One of the key ways we will do this is through employee stories. It's actually the stories from our staff that's linked to key cultural events. So we have developed an internal plan that supports the implementation of the strategy by celebrating our CALD community and raising awareness of how we can stand with our colleagues to stamp out racism. This communication plan is in support of our strategic pillars of high-performing culture and operational excellence. We want employees to think about how they can change their actions and behaviours to ensure CALD colleagues are respected and included by fellow employees and clients, feel inspired to make meaningful difference to peoples and communities, and do relevant training, get involved in CALD events and call out racism when they see it. So in terms of tools and resources, we've developed a suite of internal tools and resources and a library that complement the existing resources that have been developed by peak bodies, such as all the amazing pickaxe in this room. Can I just congratulate you on the amazing work that you do? And I will assure you, we will be advocating strong for pickaxe to continue. So we've developed a suite of resources. We've got a SharePoint site that's up on our intranet, and we've also developed online cultural awareness training module. Again, can I say a big thanks to PICAC New South Wales, ACT, for their support and guidance in the development of that module. A lot of what we do, we validate back with our multicultural workforce. Is this correct? Does it make sense? Have we got it right? Is the language right? And we've just signed up with SBS on the Cultural Competence Program, and we're rolling that out over 2 years, and we've got 1,000 licences. So it's an ongoing process. In terms of targeted recruitment, due to the growth of the expanding CALD client base, complexities arise, such as the language and communication barriers that we're all aware of, which are coupled with increased complex client needs, such as dementia. A bilingual workforce helps to alleviate some of these issues. However, the challenges do not stop here. Finding and matching a bilingual workforce in the midst of an overall market shortage presents another complexity. We are partnering with cultural associations and looking at volunteers as part of this process to increase our talent pool. And also we've developed a HR practice guide, so we can actually look at it from woe to go to ensure that we are doing the right thing. We're also very keen on looking at a refugee employment strategy, and at this point there's a concept brief that I've developed, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to resource that. Our website's been upgraded to reflect the appropriate images and make sure that we've got the right information available. Translated materials. I'm happy to say that our values have just recently been translated into 8 different languages, as well as our customer service promise in 16 languages. Now they're both available on our website, and that's a big thing for Uniting, to actually ensure that we've actually got that information in translated form. But what I want to point out here that I think is really quite important is that we've actually just had a recent survey, and we were able to get the survey translated into 6 languages. That's because the survey that we had last year, we had a very, very low uptake of multicultural staff accessing that survey, so we weren't able to hear their voices. However, that doesn't mean that we're still going to get the information, so it's really testing it. What we've done around evidence-based planning, we've done a bit of a deep dive into residential aged care. Most of our multicultural staff work in residential aged care, and there have been some issues that have come up around communication, both verbal and non-verbal, resulting in incident reports and complaints that have come in. So what we want to do is actually work with our multicultural staff to assist them and help develop their communication skills so they can feel more confident when they're conversing. And that goes back to earlier around the population that I was talking about, the new emerging populations coming in and the need for us to actually support them. Most of them are actually been in Australia for less than 5 years. So we are developing a suite of training that'll respond to that. And again, a big thank you to PICAC New South Wales ACT for their input and guidance on this project. So we're at the stage now where we've just finished a number of focus groups asking the staff across all of New South Wales ACT, what do they see as the significant issues with communicating? Where are they having problems? What do they see as a response to that? And in terms of what we're thinking and with our training proposal, is that something that they think will work for them? And what came up was, first of all, they validated that our proposal, that they agree that it would work. But importantly is the key things that you can see up here around some of the quotes. Slang, accent, speed of conversation, not being able to respond quickly, having difficulties doing that. So we're going to be developing some resources to help because it's very important that we respond. And slang came up right across every single focus group that we had, not understanding. So what we're doing also, not just as a result of that, but as a result of many other things, is that we've actually joined the Human Rights Commission campaign, Racism It Stops With Me. We're really happy that we're pledging our support to this campaign, and we're doing it because sadly, despite all our best efforts, in the last survey, we heard that racism still exists in our organisation. So we have a responsibility to respond. We've established a group. We've got some very senior people actually on this group. It's gone to the leadership forum, it's gone to the executive, it's all signed off, and we're going to be moving full speed ahead and doing a bit of a deep dive into residential aged care. We need to protect our staff. This is really important that we do that. So now I'm going to show you a video, and this video was taken at our cultural diversity workshop in February, and you're going to hear from our staff about cultural diversity.
It's really important that we are able to address the needs of the CALD community, and so really looking forward to the outcome from today.
Show me a better kind of love.
As we think about the future of this work, there are a couple of significant challenges that we need to grapple with as leaders in the organisation. The first is being a more diverse workforce. The level of diversity in our organisation does not reflect the diversity of the community. What are the barriers that we need to address to ensure that changes?
Right across New South Wales, but particularly in Sydney, many communities are becoming quite culturally diverse. And if Uniting wants to serve those communities, we need to work out how to be culturally responsive.
Secondly, how do we truly create a more inclusive workplace where all people can feel affirmed and accepted just as they are? And that means tackling some hard truths, such as the level of racism in all its forms that exists within our organisation, and having the courage and the insight as leaders to address those issues.
The issues that people from different groups are confronted with on a daily basis, discrimination, prejudice, bigotry, and it's there. And the concern, I suppose, in my role is just even looking at some of the that what we call the invisible racism.
When I've had conversations with some staff, for example, about working with people from other cultural backgrounds, their response might be, well, I treat everybody equally. But sometimes it's actually not about treating everybody equally. It's about being intentional and going beyond that, working out really what it means to be inclusive.
Having that similar, the similar face-to-face, being approachable and having somebody that looks like you and saying, yeah, they will understand. If I go to that person, then they'll understand what I'm saying. You know, and this could actually work in reverse, because some of our cultures, probably like my culture, they don't want to work with somebody of a similar culture, and that's okay.
Families may dress their child in clothing that is long-sleeved, and we might think it's a hot day, but we need to be culturally sensitive towards their needs and come to a happy medium with that. So it really comes down to open communication, I think.
There are a range of challenges. Some of them are actually internal. So making sure that we have the right staff that are appropriately skilled.
We had a customer phone requesting a Nepalese support worker to provide supports to him, who's Tibetan speaking. We actually didn't have a worker that matched that request. Although the option specialist that did speak with him was able to, through the conversation, uncover that he already had a connection of a community member that was voluntarily supporting him. And we were then able to investigate the possibility of employing that Tibetan-speaking worker. She is now supporting the customer. He's very happy, and we're very happy in the fact that we have a highly motivated, skilled Tibetan-speaking young woman providing supports.
Staff that speak languages that are helpful, staff that are both person-centred but also bring a cultural lens to their work and know how to integrate that when they're speaking with and working alongside our clients and customers.
Yeah, we do have the, visuals, have the picture and the word in Arabic and the word how we say it in English. For example, if we say hello, we say, in Arabic, marhaba, and then write it in English, marhaba. So for staff to exercise, just to get them an idea, what the child wants, to meet their needs.
We can focus on developing as many policies as we like, as many strategies and plans as we like, but nothing's going to change unless we as individuals, staff in Uniting, leaders in Uniting, actually work out how to integrate what we've learned and implement it on the ground. It has to change everyday behaviour. That's the thing that will make the difference.
If we were not to have a COLD strategy within the organisation, it would be a missed opportunity and a way by which we wouldn't realise the vision that we have of our work in the community, of being an inclusive, just and connected world. We would miss the opportunity of leveraging the inherent wisdom and capabilities of different faiths and different cultural groups, and the great value that they add to our organisation, and indeed the way in which they too can serve people of their own cultures and communities in the wider community. So we would not realise our vision, but we'd also miss the opportunity of the great strengths that a culturally and diverse workforce brings to our organisation and the wider community.
We want them to feel like they're welcomed, they're valued, their culture as a part of who they are as a human being is valued also.
Okay, so what have we learnt? We've learnt that it's about our people, our community and our purpose, from the bottom up to the top down. We learnt that we need to foster true engagement and consultation with our called clients and staff, and that we need to give them a voice, and we need to ensure we have strong commitment and sponsorship from our executive and the board that is visible and credible. So I would like to end by thanking you all, and also what I'd really like to hope for, that in 10 years' time we're not having this conversation about the importance of cultural diversity, because it would be inherent in the way we do business, that it is part of our DNA, but we're just not there yet. Thank you, everybody.